Hey, my name is Lauren Lankford. I'm going to talk to you about self-censorship tendencies in libraries. One of the things that this inspired me to do was kind of look at my own background, and I think this week I'm going to look into analyzing my community a little bit better. Um, One of the things that we were asked to do was to think of the three reasons that we have a collection, or the three most important reasons to have a collection policy. I think the top three reasons are to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the students, to meet the needs of the staff, and in case of a challenge. We want to make sure that we meet the needs of the students, and we want them to read for enjoyment, and we want them to be able to do research and have lots of resources to use. We want them to be challenged with new information, and while we want them to make a connection to information, we also want them to expand their horizons and to look outside of what is known to them. So sometimes that requires a diversity of information, stuff that they may not have looked at on their own. We want to meet the needs of the staff. In order to do that, we need to be accessible and useful for every content area. Um, then we need to be responsive to the needs of the staff by making sure that we are in communication with them, that we are giving them access to resources that they need, not necessarily what we think they need, um, and to get good feedback from them, and to be open to new ideas and new information. And then we need to be ready in case of a challenge. I think that if there is a challenge, there's normally a lot of emotional reaction, and we need to have logical steps in place to take in order to kind of offset the emotions. And we need to make sure that we are identifying the appropriateness of the resource and whether or not it needs to be in the library and it's appropriate for the age of the student. And then we need to identify the use or value of the resource. How is it going to be used? Is it a required material, or is it something they can check out at will? But we need to be ready if there is a challenge. The article that I found on my own was a proposal for a thesis, and the doctor, or about to be doctor, wanted to look at um, what effect challenges had on librarians and whether or not it controlled what the librarians kept in their collections. So it talked about how challenges often come from uh, people who want to control what others see and hear. They have a belief in their own moral correctness. They're sometimes viewing the material out of context. They may have a lack of respect for others' opinions or a lack of understanding of different interests, and they often have a desire to protect the young from what they consider dangerous ideas. The proposal for her thesis was to evaluate the effect that these challenges had on librarians, and it kind of accepted the idea that most librarians wanted to have a full range of access to information, but that they may be influenced by the possibility of challenges, and that they may be self censoring in order to make sure that they don't have to face a challenge in the future. I thought that was a very interesting um, thing to look at for a doctorate proposal. And then the article that we read as a class, the children's collection development good books are books that kids like. Um, it kind of reminded me of the idea that kids don't always know what's good for them. They may be attracted to what's shiny and pretty looking, but that you can kind of use that to attract the child and then make them find materials that are more appropriate or useful. So maybe they come into the library because of a book that they like, or they know the character, but we can also get them to find those good books that have more substance and can grow their little minds once we have them in the library. So I think that there's a value to both items. And I think that's it. Thank you for listening. I think this was a very important thing for librarians to do, to evaluate the content of their collections.